Yo, what's going on? How you doing?
How you doing? How's your mama doing?
Mama them okay, thank God. Mama them is okay.
That's right.
Yeah, you doing all right today?
I am doing well. It's been a good day.
All right, you know where you at?
I'm up in this hood.
What's the name of this hood?
Ain't no days off, dude.
Ain't no days off. Well, as y'all already know, I'm Lewis, I'm the host, and this is...
I am Jenifer. Nice to meet you guys.
Hey, Jenifer.
Hey.
You want to tell me where you're from?
Sure. Originally, I'm from Columbia, South Carolina, born and raised there. And then 3 years ago, I moved here to Myrtle Beach.
All right, so you was in Columbia your entire time?
I actually was. There was a brief moment in time where I lived in Asheville for a while.
Okay.
Lived in a commune, actually. A lot of people don't understand
A
that.
what?
A commune.
A commune? What's that?
A commune is basically where we lived off the grid. It was a wolf reservation. And we lived in log cabins. My son actually was potty trained in an outhouse. We had we couldn't use axe. We had to use axes to cut the wood for our wood stove and everything else. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So how was that growing up?
And that was actually after I had my son.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was really nice. We lived off the land, grew our own food and everything else.
And this is where you was originally from?
No, this is when
Asheville.
Yeah, up in Asheville is where I lived with my first son when he was born.
How old were you?
I was 20. Oh, so Kaya was 20. I was 21, 22.
Okay. Okay. So
we don't have to start talking about age though.
All right. All right. All right. So just to back up a little bit. So how was it growing up in Columbia?
Growing up was it was pretty good. I come from a middle class family. We lived in the Irmo area of Columbia. I was the baby of 6 kids. My dad was an electrician, and he was a firm believer in getting us the best education he could. So he moved us to the neighborhood where my siblings and I have 3 brothers and 2 sisters, which actually now I have 3 brothers and 3 sisters. We found out just a few years ago that we have an oldest sister that we never even knew about growing up. And we can get into that. It's nothing shameful.
All right. So how many kids were in the house?
In the house, there were 6 of us growing up in a 3-bedroom house.
3-bedroom house. It was 6 of y'all. Where did you fit in at?
I'm the baby.
You're the baby.
You didn't know.
All right. So was there any dysfunction?
So addiction, which this is my background. I am an addict. I'm in recovery. But growing up, I didn't think there was dysfunction, actually. Now looking back, there was some. We were a Southern Baptist family. Mm-hmm. Church every Sunday, every Wednesday, all the youth groups, Girls in Action, the Royal Valor, or the boys thing for the boys, choirs, doing all the things, My dad actually, when he moved here from California with my mom to go to Columbia Bible College, and to look into being in seminary. And I thought it was the way kids normally grew up. And, my story's not as bad as some I've heard, and I never really do that whole comparison thing of as bad or as good or better than or anything else. But, I didn't go through a whole lot of the abuse from the parents. There wasn't alcohol in the house. My mom didn't even have cooking wine.
So there was church, no alcohol, no abuse. So was there any trauma?
But there was trauma with the siblings. And that's what I had to really look at going through step work and things like that. That's where I realized the trauma came from, feeling the feelings of less than and things like that. A lot of it was mental abuse, being called the names, brat, things like that.
What names were you called?
Brat was the biggest one, and just, the baby. And I honestly, it's something that, for years I covered up and always brushed over and said, this is just the way it was. You know, I can recall times where my siblings, my sister and brothers ran around the house, chasing each other with knives. You know, but I thought that was just what siblings did.
The norm.
Yeah, I thought it was the norm, and you know, to come find out it was not so much the norm. You know, a lot of what happened in the household is not my story to tell. With some of the things with my sister, and like, but it is some of the things are out there, you know.
So the trauma that you experienced were mostly verbal abuse.
Verbal abuse. There's some physical abuse, and I think my brothers thought they were picking, or
Where they beat you up?
it wasn't like, yeah. I mean, there was times where you know.
You was running that mouth, weren't you?
Don't act like you know me. You know, and honestly, it is funny that you say that, because it wasn't until I became an adult that I found my voice. I always tried so desperately. I wanted to fit in. Being the baby, like my sibling, my oldest sister, she graduated from high school from the time I started forming memories. She graduated, she went out to Oklahoma and went on to college. And so then it was just the five of us there.
Okay.
And it seemed like my three oldest siblings, they were like best friends. All their friends hung out together and things like that. And then my one brother, who's just 3 years older than me, he seemed to kind of, as he got older, he fit in with them. And I never seemed to fit in. I never seemed to be able to hang out with that group. I used to do everything I could to hang out. I remember my oldest brother, he and the neighborhood boys were always working on cars. They had all their Chevelles out there, all the Camaros, all the Trans Ams and everything, working on cars. And I remember going out riding my bike, wanting to fit in, sitting in the middle of the engine. That's how I learned a little bit about cars and stuff like that. Had and got to respect, you know, the older cars and things. But you know, I just wanted to fit in.
So how were you as far as the kids in the neighborhood and school? Like, were you social? No.
So I with the girls, there was, you know, I had a couple neighbors that lived across the street. One girl, she and I actually, we were 1 year apart. My parents moved into the house where my mom actually still lives today, when right before my first birthday. So that's 49 years. That she's lived in that house. And one girl, she and I were best friends, grew up, had our birthday parties. Our birthdays are like 2 weeks apart from each other. And so she and I were really close. I have always been able to say I was the chameleon growing up.
Okay.
I could try to fit into any group. You know, growing up, I would always say, oh, I want to take piano. So mom would rush me off and put me in piano lessons. And I would do it for like 2 weeks and I'd get bored. Or I would say, hey, I want to do gymnastics. And I would do that in a couple weeks and get bored.
So you went to...
I could never stick with anything, and nothing ever was satisfying.
Okay. So did you finish school?
I did not.
You did?
I did not.
Was there...
I always wanted to say that it used to be when people ask me, when did you graduate? And I'd say, I graduated in 1991, and it was a complete lie. What happened is by my senior year, I was getting high, and I could never make it to that first and second period. You know, it was like coming to school. Unless I was high, I couldn't come to school.
Or smoking weed?
Smoking weed, drinking, yeah.
Okay.
Alcohol, it was a drug for me.
Okay.
And so doing things like that. And so we go to the lake at Lake Murray. I think you've crossed that dam before.
Okay.
So yeah, we go to the lake, we get high, and then I come back. And so I was missing 2 credits. They let me walk across the stage.
But you just didn't get that diploma.
I never got that diploma.
So
I got this little black book that's nice and pretty and engraved and everything else, but no paper inside.
Wow.
And so I went for many years. It wasn't until I was 43.
So you walk that stage, you get your book. So where did you go after high school?
I got pregnant. I went and followed the Grateful Dead and then got pregnant.
You went and followed the Grateful Dead and got pregnant.
Yeah, I did the East Coast tour, up and down East Coast tour from 92 until 94.
How did that work out for you?
Yeah, I mean, it was actually fun, exciting. But during that time, I also got pregnant with my first son.
Okay.
That was in 93. And
Do you consider that as a gift today?
So story behind that is my first son, I actually ended up giving up for adoption. My oldest son, I was following the Grateful Dead. I, was hanging out with the crowds. First time I ever got arrested, I was pregnant when I was pregnant with him in Atlanta. Me and 11 friends got arrested, and they, yeah. And so my aunt had been trying for like 7 years to have kids, and she and my uncle were not able to have children. So when they found out I was pregnant, they asked if they could adopt. And I used to tell people how selfless it was, that it was the best thing for everybody. I was going to give him up for adoption. My aunt and uncle would have a child. Everything was the best thing. And it wasn't until I did my first 4-step that I realized that the reason I gave him up for adoption was because he was interfering with my using. He was interfering with my lifestyle. Today, is it a blessing? Today it is. He and I have reconnected. We've built and we're building a relationship. But back then he was not a blessing. It was an interference with the lifestyle,
So you're following this Grateful Dead, you get pregnant by this. Do you still talk to the guy, your boyfriend?
Actually,
at that time?
At that time we were still talking, yes. And a year later we got pregnant again and had our second son.
Okay.
And I did keep Kaya. Kaya is my oldest son.
Okay.
And so it was not, but with my first one, it was shortly after that I also had my first suicide attempt. The shame, the guilt, the regret.
Why were you wanting to commit suicide?
The shame, the guilt, the regret.
From what?
Of giving a child up. It's the same feelings anytime we're using, right? It's the same things whenever we're stuck in that grip of addiction. And I've let my family down. As a young child, I was supposed to grow up and be a lawyer, right? And couldn't even graduate high school.
So you're following the Grateful Dead, you get pregnant one time, you give this child up, you get pregnant again.
Mm-hmm.
And after you got pregnant the second time is when
the first time is when I tried to attempt suicide.
When you tried to attempt suicide.
Yeah.
So if you would have attempted suicide, your second son, if you would have succeeded, none of your other kids would have made it. How did you try to attempt suicide?
That was, I took pills and drank a whole lot of vodka with them. And I ended up at the hospital having my stomach pumped. And
how did you get to the hospital?
That ambulance, my mom.
Are you using your mom? So you're your boy.
I was living with my mom.
You're and your boyfriend not together at this time?
We are. He lived with his parents. I lived with my parents.
Okay.
And so I was living there, and my mom found me and called the hospital, and they pumped my stomach. And that's one of the biggest things about those that commit that with suicide attempts, that our legislators that something needs to be changed. You're already feeling the worst you can about yourself. And then when someone attempts suicide, they come to the hospital and they take you 72-hour hold, right? That you've got to go into a facility for a 72-hour hold. When they remove you from the hospital to put you in that 72-hour hold, if you're escorted by a police, you're not just escorted out. You're handcuffed as if you were a criminal.
Yeah.
It's the most degrading thing I'd ever experienced.
Working in the healthcare field, it's still like that.
Yeah.
It's still like that. You got armed you got guards patrolling your bed. And then if you go from the hospital to there, they put your hand behind. They handcuff you, pack your stuff. Yeah, it is. Yeah, I see that.
And I hear you are, as a human being, experiencing one of the hardest breakdowns of your life, and they're treating you as if you were a criminal.
What happened when you woke up in a hospital when you found out you didn't succeed?
First of all,
did you remember what you had did?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Oh.
When you first wake up and you find out you didn't succeed, it's one of the worst feelings. Like crap, I'm still here. I've got to still deal with this, Then there was some relief too that you get a second opportunity. It's a paradox of feelings, right? It's It's that whole yin and yang. It's like I'm excited that I could get to be here still and I can do something different, but then it's like I don't know how to do anything different.
Was that your first time? Was that your last time trying to commit
It
suicide?
was not.
It was not.
It was not. It would be probably 15 years later I would attempt again.
Okay.
Yeah.
So so what happened once you got out of the hospital and got out of the behavioral health?
So that time was the first time that you can truly say that my mom enabled me. Growing up where I grew up and everything else, right down the road, the family that we knew, one of the boys, one of their sons was a magistrate judge. And mom, they put me at the Bryant Center in Columbia. And if anybody's familiar with the Bryant Center, it is horrendous. It is not meant for habitation, right? And in my opinion, I'm sorry. I'm gonna say in my opinion. But so when mom came there and she was bringing the clothes for me for my 72-hour hold, and she saw what was happening there, she went to the magistrate judge and had him sign me out. Here was my first opportunity for mental health. Here was my first opportunity to get honest and say, I'm abusing drugs, right?
Okay.
And I was robbed of that opportunity. And I don't say that to say anything negative about my mom. She did what she thought was best for me at the time.
So, as a parent looking at their child like that, and a lot of times they don't, if they ain't went down that road, then they don't know any better.
Right.
So she was doing what she thought was right. She thought she was maybe coming to your rescue.
Exactly. She didn't want to watch me be treated as, because my family is the one who everything happens behind closed doors. You don't let the neighbors know what's happening. You don't tell anybody what's happening. You don't call an ambulance to the house. So, people will then know that something's happening. And so in my entire life, it was always, you don't tell people about the things that are happening behind the closed doors, And so it was another scenario where it was just sheltered. It was protective. And again, I know it was because she loved me. I know it's because she wanted what was best for me. She just didn't know what I truly needed. We didn't have addiction in my family.
All right. So she didn't know you was using.
She knew that I was smoking pot and things like that. She didn't know to the extent of what it was. She thought it was recreational. She did not know that I was living to using to live.
Well, so and that's just with at this time pot and alcohol.
And there were psychedelics, mushrooms, LSD, window pane, all the things.
Looking back, do you think you were addicted to drugs at that time?
Oh, I know I was. I know the time I first took a sip of alcohol at 12 years old.
So she signed you out. She signs you out. Of course, you get into and you get pregnant with your second child.
Mm-hmm. Shortly thereafter, I'm pregnant again, and we decided to keep Kaya. This time, his father had moved up to Boone to go to ASU. And I stayed in Columbia. I was working and everything else.
Is that when you decided to move?
No, I didn't move. I stayed in town. Yeah, I stayed in town, and his father and I I would drive up every weekend while I was pregnant, and even after I had Kaya, I drive back and forth up to Boone to visit and everything else. Get off work for the weekend, go up and see him.
Okay.
And,
so did y'all have a great relationship?
I thought we did.
Okay.
I thought we did until one weekend I went up to Boone and met one of the girls that went to school with him and found out she was pregnant with his child. So
was the relationship over?
At that point, I chose to walk away.
So there was no fighting or mad or nothing?
At that time, it was not. It was just, what I
You didn't flat no tires or bust out no windows or spray paint the tag or nothing?
I didn't. This time I'm still that little hippie girl. I was still all laid back. Catch me today. No.
How about that? Catch me outside. How about that?
That's right.
So, all right. So that relationship is done. You got a baby.
I've got a baby, and I was going to focus on raising this baby. I had done pretty well with just maintaining with the smoking pot here and there.
You were going to focus on him.
I was.
But
but I turned 21.
Oh, so all this stuff is happening before you're even 21?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I turned 21 and my friends turned 21. And I don't know if you've ever been to Columbia in 5 Points, but it is the spot. And so what started out as just, hey, I'm going to go out after work, or hey, I'm going to go out, on a Friday night and have my mom babysit, turned into, hey, I'm going to go out, and then it turned into like being gone the whole weekend. And then it would turn into being gone for the weekend and a Monday. And then eventually it turned into.
I remember them days where I was what you call the weekend warrior.
Yeah.
That weekend I would get high and do as much as I can, but that Sunday I could manage to get it together so I can be productive that week. And then I remember where like it popped out on like a Wednesday or a Thursday, and then there came a time I didn't even care.
Exactly
going to work straight from wherever I've been all night.
Yeah.
All right. So you're working?
So I am, and I always chose these jobs that fit really well with my addiction, like waiting tables, bartending, things like that. Of course, like I said, I didn't graduate from high school, so I didn't think I could really do much more. There was one point where I did get a job and was able to maintain that job pretty well for a couple of years. I was working as a bill collector. I did first and third party collections. So if you ever got that call about, your medical bill, that was me.
That was you?
That was me.
And
medical collections, it's just like sales. It's any kind of sales. I'm just trying to sell you an idea of taking care of your bill,
Yeah.
So it was a good job. It was lucrative at the time. I was able to move out of mom's house and get my own place and think that I was doing some things with my life. Yeah. And the whole facade of thinking I was doing it.
All right. So you got out of mom's house. What are you using? Are you still using the psychedelic weed and?
Mostly, yes. I did not try anything what they called hard, except for one time. There was one night we were all going to go see a band, and somebody told me that I was tripping on window pane, and then they told me that if you'll mix heroin with it, it's such a great high. And so, of course, like any good addict does, like, oh, I'm gonna get higher, that's gonna be better. So, of course, I tried it. I did that.
It's something called window pane.
Well, that's a type of LSD. It's like a liquefied. It's like a gel.
Okay.
Basically, yeah.
Sort of like ice.
No, it's LSD. It's yeah.
All right.
Tripping on acid.
All right.
Yeah, it's just a different type of
So
acid
call it
instead of a
window
paper.
pane?
Yeah, instead of a paper, it's like a liquid gel.
All right.
Yeah.
And you mixed it with heroin.
I did that night.
Are you?
Yeah, that was just snorting the heroin and dropping the window pane. I had not ever. There was no way I was doing needles. I was scared to death of needles at that time.
How did you feel once you did the window pane, and how did you feel? Was it good though?
That was.
You feeling real good.
It's one of those roller coasters. Of course, we're dancing and everything else, and it's just like up and down and up and down.
So I ask everybody this question: at the time you tried the two together, the heroin and the LSD, did you know that you was gonna do it again?
So I wanted to do it again. I did, but heroin at the time scared the crap out of me.
Why?
I had watched some of my friends and what it was doing to them, the ones who strictly did the heroin and things like that. And I was watching the destruction. Again, this whole facade that I'm not as bad as.
Yeah.
I didn't do it that way. I didn't do it like that, or I'm not even doing it. And so it helped me maintain this idea that I'm not as bad as them. Sort
of like someone that can't stop taking pills or doing cocaine, saying, well, at least I don't smoke crack.
That's it. And that was me. That was me at the time until, 2013.
That's justification because if I can look at you as doing worse than me, I can continue getting high.
Then I don't have a problem.
Well,
you got the problem.
Well, Lewis sold himself. I ain't sold myself.
That's right.
So, oh gosh. So,
He's doing that trash they're talking about. He's trashy. If I continue to do the things that are socially acceptable, you know, there's a part in the basic text that talks about social
social acceptability does not equal recovery.
Recovery, right. But I thought that social acceptability meant that I don't have a problem. So if I continue to do the things that were easily accessible, alcohol, cocaine, acid, the ones that were social drugs, I have a social that I'm acceptable, right?
Oh man, I'm so glad I don't see things through that lens no more. Sort of like living on drugs, living with my mama, not paying food, not buying bills, and calling you homeless.
That's right. That's right. We like to color things pretty.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
I like to look at it. It makes mine. I don't feel as bad when you're doing worse than me.
Look, that was me when I first got into recovery in 2004. I came into the rooms in Narcotics Anonymous, right?
Hold on. We ain't there yet. Wait,
okay.
Please. We ain't there yet. So, so you got your place. You're waiting tables, and you're continuing to use drugs.
I am continuing. Then I found out that I could get free drugs if I sold drugs. If I found a good dealer, if I found a good, supply, that I could start selling them. I was bartending at this time. By the time I got here, I'm bartending, right? And I'm bartending at this little place that I call the Millionaires Club.
Okay.
Near Fort Jackson. It's where all these guys that go, they hunt, they golf, they do all the things, right? And they come in and it's a private club. And so I thought I hit it big, and they were all wanting cocaine. And so if I could sell it to them, and this was when the poker machines were in the bars, right? And so we had the poker machines, and they used to pay me $100 an hour to lock the doors. They would give me their credit cards. I go to the ATM, pull $3,000 out for each of them, whatever, they're playing the games, they're buying the drinks, they're buying my drinks, they're buying the cocaine from me, plus giving me the cocaine.
So you win-win.
Couldn't lose.
So, how did that work out for you?
Well, let's just say that at that point, for me, this is where I started having affairs with a couple of them. They were paying my car payments. They were paying my house payment. There was no way I thought I could lose, right? Here's the thing. They're paying for these things, but I'm not paying them. I'm buying more drugs. So you'd think that, I'd have enough, but I'm not paying them. And I remember one day going over to my mom. She had been babysitting for Kaya, and I remember going over there, and I said, Mom, I just want to take a long hot bath, right? So I get in the bathtub, and I remember my mom knocking on the bathroom door. Jenny? My mom calls me Jenny. I was like, Mom, just let me finish my bath. And she said, there's a tow truck outside taking your car. So I jump up. One would think that I'd jump up being like, oh, why? I knew exactly why. I hadn't been paying my car payment. I knew why they were taking the truck. I jumped up and run out the door, and I'm running down the street in a towel because there's an 8-ball in that car that I needed to get before they took the car.
Wow.
I didn't care they were taking the car. I didn't want them to take my dope.
Did you get your dope?
No. I didn't get the dope.
You don't know who got it.
Somebody was happy.
Man, that's so you're on that collision course now. At this time.
I am. But then, so I told you if you found your good supply, then you sell dope, right? And I found the greatest supply. And that greatest supply turned into my husband. I ended up marrying my dope dealer. What better hookup could that be?
Did y'all have any kids together?
We did. We had 2 kids, had a boy and a girl. And it was a very, rough relationship. It is, that marriage is where I found myself that I would settle for it being treated anyway, as long as I was getting what I wanted.
What does that mean?
That means I would take abuse. I would take verbal, mental. I went back to my childhood where I just needed to be accepted. And I allowed people to talk to me and treat me anyway as long as I felt accepted.
Well, let's talk about abuse. You said verbal and mental abuse.
Verbal and mental abuse. And here's the thing about abuse is that oftentimes the abused becomes the abuser. You put up with it for so long, you do the things, and then eventually you lash out yourself.
So have you, is he still around today?
He is, he is one that is, I can only make living amends. And he has not quite found life. He's continued to live a life that I decided to remove myself from.
Was there any physical abuse?
There was physical abuse, mental abuse, financial abuse.
So he hit you?
He hit me, and again, like I said, eventually I hit him.
Any hospital visits?
Hospital visits.
Black eyes?
There's black eyes, broken noses. My middle son I almost lost him after being pushed down the stairs. And my dad and my brother came in to remove my children from me. And they said if I didn't press charges, they were going to remove the kids. And that was when I just had, I was pregnant with Stephen and I had Kai there.
So you're taking this abuse.
Mm-hmm.
Are you at this time still in love?
So, here's the thing. I told you I married my dope dealer. I told you I am in the grips of active addiction. I honestly can say, Lowe's, I don't know if that was ever love. If it was love of the man or love of the situation.
You never had time to be in the relationship with the absence of drugs.
Correct.
To find out.
We used the entire time we were together.
So do you believe, because you can speak on this because you are a victim.
Yeah.
Do you believe that everyone that gets abused or claim abuse, do you believe everyone is victims?
So I believe that we are victims up until a certain point. And this was really hard for me at a certain time, and it's taken a lot of step work. I'm a victim the first time. The abuse continues, but at some point, I am a volunteer.
Is that the second time?
I can't tell you at what point you crossed, just like I can't tell you at what point did you go from socially using to an addict. When do I cross? When is that?
It's
right?
In line.
They're right. And so I can't tell you at what point that I actually stopped being a victim and started just being a volunteer. And then, like I said, and then that volunteer became the abuser.
Wow.
It all goes hand in hand. I see I'm in therapy, even today, just because things that I never faced in my childhood repeated in certain relationships.
So you didn't have any friends. So this guy is mentally, spiritually, physically, financially abusing you, and you didn't have. I know your parents know what's going on. They're ready to extract your kids. You didn't have no friends or nobody at this time?
So I had friends, but my friends
did dope, and you're married a drug dealer, and you had
there
dope.
You go.
So, baby, just get.
There you go. There you go. Maybe if you didn't get as drunk, or maybe if he didn't get as drunk, it would change. If different scenarios change, the situation would change, right? And I'm not here sharing this to speak ill of him at all, right? This was something, again, I signed up for it eventually. It was something I signed up for. We were in the grips of addiction. A lot of this plays into that. And I was seeking someone to love and appreciate me.
Yeah.
And he gave me what I needed in a way that he knew how to give me.
Yeah. And this particular podcast right here isn't to tear anyone down.
Right.
It's I believe that when we share our stories, we produce and spread awareness.
Right.
And you sharing this might get into the hands of a victim that's currently in that situation. And that brings us to our next question. When did you say, okay, enough is enough?
The saddest part is, so he and I got married in 2001. I didn't leave him officially until 2011. There was many separations. There was many, leave and come back and leave and come back. But it was 11 years. I met him in 1998. So even before we got married, I met him in 1998. 2011 is when I finally left for the last time.
Why? What? So you would leave and come back, leave and come back.
And I always try to make, this goes back to my childhood. I told you I was raised in a Southern Baptist family. So when you stand before God and man and pledge to each other to love and cherish and honor, you keep that promise. I went to my mama. And here's something that a lot of people don't understand. And some don't believe in. And I'm going to get honest about this. Just because I'm married does not mean I can't be raped. So when my husband held me down the night that I caught him sleeping with another woman, with one of my girls I used to sponsor, and he told me in order to show that I forgave him, I had to sleep with him. And me saying no and him forcing himself on me, that is rape.
It is.
I went to my mom. Again, this is my mom who knew the life that she knew, the way she was raised. And she didn't believe that was rape. And encouraged me to uphold those vows.
So, people back then that was raised back then, they stayed together 50, 60, 70 years. It was really till death. But you can't have me to believe that we get married and stand before God and say our vows and it's till death do us part, sickness. You can't tell me that God want me to be with someone that starts hitting me upside the head and raping me and degrading me and physically and abusing. God don't want me to be with nobody else. God don't want me to be with that person.
Eventually, I had to come to a greater understanding. And that understanding is that God meant that when he chooses your partner. I chose my partner. That marriage wasn't blessed by God, at least not the God of my understanding. I made that choice. I chose that partner to benefit me, right? And so that wasn't, it wasn't something that we swore to that was blessed by God.
I got a friend right now that's in a relationship. And when they are talking to me about, I'm one of the people that they confide in. Mm-hmm. And, people can't, I get it when someone is whispering things in your ear. Now you got a resentment towards someone that hasn't done a thing in the world to you. All you know is what they're telling you, and now this person is in your ear. Now you're looking at this person in disgust now, and you're not even in the situation, And I got a friend that's going through that same kind of abuse right now, and I don't think, I've never been married, but I understand vows and God. I don't think that marriage is, God can't ordain it, but I don't think I think there's a line where that ordained part can expire.
Yeah.
Because if you're hitting me and busting me upside the head and doing all this
God didn't
stuff,
choose that for
that's
you. That wasn't the one that was chosen for you. That was one that you chose. And that's where for me, I had to come to that understanding and tell my mom, I chose this man. He wasn't given to me by God. I made a choice because he was beneficial to my using.
You put up with this for 11 years.
More. Like I said, 98 is when
98 to 2011, you put up with this back and forth.
And he put up with my back and forth too, though, again.
So when you finally did leave, did you miss them?
I no longer miss that relationship. But when I finally left,
When you finally left.
Here's what I did. I walked away from my kids too.
Mm.
That's
Did he
it.
have the kids?
I left my kids with him because he had the home. When we got the divorce, I actually, because at one point during 2001, I was working for, I was a paralegal for a family law attorney. And so I helped write up our agreement for our divorce and everything else. And I just wanted out. I wanted to be done. So I didn't ask for any kind of money. I didn't ask for any of the things. I just wanted to walk away. I left him with the house, with the cars, with everything. I also left him with the kids. My plan was that he was going to keep the kids so that way they didn't have to get out of school or anything else.
Okay.
Again, remember, I'm in the grips of addiction. So best laid plans are not the reality, right?
Mm.
And so my plan was, they're going to go to school. I'll get them here and there, things like that.
So you continue your addiction once you left.
Oh,
You're back at home with your mom, though.
No, I left to go live in hotel rooms at this time.
All right.
By this time in 2011, when I left, I'm living out of my truck and then hotel rooms.
Okay, I've lived in hotel rooms.
Yeah.
That was my address.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, here you go. So hotel rooms were apartments to me.
Yeah.
All right. So I go in, I take their artwork off the walls and I put my own artwork. I take all their comforters off. I go and buy my own comforters. I get it all decorated. Funny story real quick. God, I hope I can't get arrested for this now. Anyway, I'm staying at the Red Roof Inn, right? And I've got this whole flower pot. It's like it's a flower stand with all these flowers and everything else outside. And one night I'm, going to go, this time I'm actually manufacturing methamphetamine. I'm doing it. And so one night we're out late and I'm riding down this road and I see a yard of the month sign outside this person's yard. And I'm really angry with them for having yard of the month and I don't have a yard. So I stole their yard of the month sign and put it up at Red Roof Inn by my flowers.
Yeah.
My yard of the month at Red Roof Inn.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So yeah, that's my story.
So,
Yeah.
that's your, so you're standing there, you continue.
Again, that social acceptability,
Yeah.
right?
So you're standing there, you got yard of the month, of course. And did you have a lot of using friends?
Don't we always, especially I told you I'm manufacturing.
Yeah.
So here's some amusing friends. Here's a story, and I'll skip ahead a little bit. There's two people here in Myrtle Beach. The reason I moved here to Myrtle Beach, they were my using buddies.
Mm.
We stayed here and we used to stay in Columbia hotels and everything else. God, it was insane. We met. We traveled on the same cruise and everything. Actually, one of them I was arrested. My last day using was with him. And we were arrested together. And so when they tell you that you can't get clean and stay clean around old buddies, that's true if they're still using.
Yeah.
But the bond we have today, sitting in a room, the reason I moved to Myrtle Beach because I was asked to speak for one of my friends for her 1 year celebration.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So how long were you in jail?
Which time? So first time I got clean was in 2004. Okay, I'm still with the husband. Remember that. I'm still with the husband. He got sick of my shit and he told me, am I allowed to say that on here? I'm sorry.
You're good.
He got sick and he told me, you're either going to do something about your problem or I'm going to divorce you and take the kids. So the first time I got clean was in 2004.
You said you got sick?
Huh?
You said you got sick?
He was sick of my stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, I was using constantly. I put our house in foreclosure, all the things, right? And so I went to rehab for the first time. And I got clean. I got clean for 2 years, 364 days. 9 hours before I would have celebrated 3 years, I went back by one of those bars that I used to work at to show them how well I was doing. And I ended up doing shots. I ended up in the bathroom doing the things that I enjoy doing, and I stayed out for 8.5 years.
Okay.
In relapse. So there was a brief period of.
And in those 8 years, you was back and forth in jail.
I picked up 22 charges in that 8.5 years. I had never been arrested before then. And during that relapse, I picked up 8.5 years relapse, 22 charges, and by the end of my run, I was facing 15 years in prison.
So you did go to prison.
I had never actually had to get a state number. I was in jail for 5 warrants, and I talked to my public defender, and I was white girl privilege. I asked her, can't you just get me rehab, drug court? What can you get me? Because every time before it was just a 21 day, I'd have to go in for jail for 21 days. I back out and figuring out how to do it different.
Okay.
How to change people, places, and things, and that would change the outcome, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the insanity of we doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. If I just put a different kink in it, if I change where I hang out, the people I hang out with, which drug I'm doing, it would make a difference. And it never made a difference. I always ended up back
in the same place.
And so I try to pull the white girl card, and I try to say, give me a good lenient. Then she said, no, they want you for 15 years. She pulls out my rap sheet, and she's like, you're always getting a slap on the wrist. You're always getting a slap on the wrist. You're going into prison. And that was my first surrender, true surrender. Is after I met with her, I went back up to my cell. I am considered a violent offender. And so I'm behind the doors for 23 hours in a locked cell. And I'm not allowed out, with all the public and things like that. So I'm up there, and I got on my knees, and I prayed, and I asked God, I said, anywhere you put me back in Narcotics Anonymous. I said, I don't know how to live life.
In Recovery 12-step fellowship.
Any kind of, for me, it was narcotics, because that's what I had known. That's what I grew up, So, I am certified peer support specialist, and I'm a firm believer in any pathway of recovery, just as long as you're in recovery.
So now so you haven't used since you got out of jail.
Right.
When did you get out of jail?
So the day I got arrested was April 13th, 2015.
Is that your clean date?
That is my clean date. And the reason I can say it's my clean date is because April 12th I used.
So did you, so how long do you have clean?
8 years, 9 months, 3 days. I have served I've been able to serve over half my prison term.
So a lot of times when we look at addicts, we look at them as being homeless and jobless and penniless and finding ways and means to get more. And is that your story?
So it was not, and I never wanted it to be until it ended up being, right? Like I said, the first time in recovery, I came into the rooms, and I heard about the people who were shooting up, who were smoking crack, who were doing, what I'm saying? Like, I'm still that one.
That didn't fit your bill.
That wasn't me. It wasn't me. I wasn't a prostitute. I didn't do these things, right? None of those stories fit me. I found all the differences. I didn't find any of the similarities, except for the fact that I got caught and they did too.
I looked at myself in that first detox.
Yep.
In that first detox, I walked up in there grandiose.
Yes.
I walked up in that first detox, and they was dirty, and they had skin acne, and they was smelly, and they were and you could tell the homelessness, and I couldn't relate.
Yeah.
They came to pick me up. I couldn't relate. They came to pick me up at my mama's house, and I was clean, bathed, showered, haircut. Like I could. This when I had hair. Like I couldn't relate to that. And the whole time, all them days that I was there in detox, I looked at the differences. Right. I looked at how I did not fit in. That does not fit my bill. Like that ain't me.
I didn't want to fit in.
And when I left there, I continued to do I was after I left there, I knew that they was there, so I was in and out over dozens of times. And every time I got by, I was worse off.
Yeah.
And then the last time I went there, the same thing. I was dirty, homeless, stinking, underweight, needed a bath. All them things that I looked at, that was my story now.
By the time I got clean in 2015, everything that they had talked about, all those yets, they told me, that's right. They told me there were yets. Yeah. And I said, oh, no, not me.
Yeah, not
I
come from a good church family.
That's right. I'm a white girl, middle class family. How dare you talk about me like that?
I come from a good church family. My mom and dad worked like that. That's
not gonna be my story.
That'll never be my story. And I stayed out there long enough, and now my story got worse than that story.
Exactly. I was doing not just smoking crack, boo. I'm shooting up crack. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm shooting it up. I'm shooting up whatever you put in my needle. I don't care what it was. That was my story by the end of it. It did not matter. It was what's going to give me, people talk about the whole drug of choice thing. I didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
There was no choice.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I didn't have a choice. At the end, I didn't have a choice, but I had a favorite.
Yeah.
Like, I know my favorite.
I had a favorite
I guess
too.
Drug of choice, okay.
Yeah.
But so and I remember, that became my story. I had done all those things that I didn't do, and what makes it crazy is because I grew up in a hood. I saw what drugs would do. I saw what alcoholism would do. Yeah. I seen it face to face, and I remember thinking, how can you let yourself go like that? That's a shame. Why don't you get yourself together? You can do better. And then that was me.
My friends that were doing heroin back, in high school and afterwards. I'm never going to be them. How could they do that? Don't they know how trashy that is until I'm doing it?
That's correct. And then now you got people that are not addicts, that don't know. They have probably smoked weed or snort or something, but they're not addicts. Everybody that smoke weed, they're not addicts. And now you got them trying to make laws and rules and bills about addiction when they
with no understanding.
When you don't understand what. Yeah, you understand the obsession and compulsion from the library books in the dictionary. You know what it means, but you don't know what it means to be looking at your TV and out of dope at the same time.
The only way you can ever make someone who's not an addict, the way I look at it now, I tell them go a couple days without your phone. Try to go a couple of days without your phone and see what you do.
Yeah, that's so it's a different meaning. Like I believe that I'm so glad that I got my help from addicts who had them been on that page, and now they're on another chapter in life. I figured, like, for someone like that, know what it's like to steal all your stuff or not have your Christmas presents or turn a trick or go to jail. Like, I figured for people that had.
Well, remember in the beginning we talked about, how we like to color things pretty, how we like to make things sound real pretty. Of course, on my resume, I'd love to be able to put that I was pharmaceutical rep. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was in pharmaceutical sales, or I'm a phlebotomist. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can color things real pretty and make my past look really good. But also, it was that whole thing, and and it's a big part of my story that I have to keep at the forefront. And I talk to sponsees and other women in my life, or even women that I talk to on a regular basis. I told you about those men that I allowed to pay for my car payment and pay for my house payment, right? So when I got big recovery, I said I was not a prostitute. I didn't do that. I didn't turn tricks,
Same thing.
My sponsor looked at me and she said, did you not lay down with men to pay your bills. Did you not receive money in exchange for sex?
Yeah.
Those were affairs, Lewis. Come on.
There you go. Yeah,
So that was my coloring pretty, right?
Yeah,
I like to
okay,
term it as an affair.
Nah.
It's not an affair.
So you get out. So you get out of prison and you go straight to narcotics. Find narcotics. Well, you had already found again. You find Narcotics Anonymous.
So they came and told me I got drug court. After I surrendered, I told you about that final time when they told me I wasn't going to get any. They wanted 15 years. I prayed to my higher power, put me anywhere where I can be in a meeting. I just need recovery, right? Because I knew Department of Corrections, they had recovery in Department of Corrections. I was ready for that. I was willing. And when they told me that, I was like, just put me anywhere. And so what I ended up doing, they came back 2 days later.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, you're a good candidate for drug court.
Wow. Awesome.
And so, like I said, I never had to get an actual state number. I've always had just like county numbers. And so I did. And they told me, I knew the day I got out of jail, I went to my first meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And I have not stopped going since.
That's awesome.
And
you got over 8 years.
8 years, 9 months, 3 days.
That's awesome. So, have life showed up since you've been here?
Lord has life showed up. I have life has showed up in many ways. I still don't make the best choices all the time. I don't make the best choices for me. I still don't treat Jenifer the way that Jenifer should be treated. And when I don't treat Jenifer the way she should be treated, I allow others to treat me in a way that I shouldn't be treated, right? So I'm on a pathway of learning how to love myself and appreciate me for every bit of who I am and not trying to be what others think I should be.
It took me years to learn that the freedom that comes with accepting you and treating you the way you should be treated and not trying to impress other people that's not, I'm just gonna say it, contributing to your well-being, your health, your build. Like there's not even.
I mean, there's a 3 F's, and I'm not gonna say I'm on your show, but there's a 3 F's. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. You're trying. What's the 3 F's?
You want me to say it?
Yeah.
If you don't fuck me, feed me, or finance me, you ain't worth my time.
Yeah. So you're sitting there, you're trying to please, and you know, even me, I found myself trying to please people, people pleasing.
Yeah.
That hurts. Ouch.
People pleasing ultimately is a lie.
Why
All
are
it
you?
is a lie.
Why are you trying to please people that isn't contributing to your mental, physical, spiritual, financial well-being at all in no kind of way? You're just trying to look good in front of these people and you're miserable as hell.
So Dr. Seuss says it best. Those who matter don't mind, and those who mind don't matter.
And I've just now, it took me a long time to realize that, but once I found it, I don't ever want to go in any situation. I want to be able to be Lewis. I want to, in any situation.
And that means the Lewis that I am right then.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Like I can be the best of, or I may be at my worst, because that's who I am. I'm a human being and I fail sometimes. But when I'm at my worst, it's okay. Because again, and I've learned, and what I've learned just even here in the last 2 months, I have learned that even at my worst, there are people who love me at their best.
Yeah.
And you know, I have a beautiful woman in my life today who I stay connected with on an almost daily basis. And she told me, Jenifer, you can walk through the gates of hell, and I'm not walking with you, but I'm standing right outside to hug you when you decide to come back out. Right? She loves me, even though she knows the madness that I may be going through. She loves me no matter what, and is right there for me.
And we got friends. I got some. I can say today I have some solid individuals in my life that love me regardless of any. If I'm broke, if I'm it don't matter. If I'm broke, well, do you got food? Do you got now? And the people that I'm trying to impress, if I'm broke, I'm broke. If I ain't got it, I ain't got it. Well, you see what I'm saying?
Those calls don't come anymore.
Yeah, those calls don't come. And those are the people that I spend years trying to impress.
Thinking if I just dressed right, said the right things, went to the right
acted
places,
right,
did the
whatever.
things, whatever. Yeah.
Now, my friends today it's unconditional.
My truest friends are the ones that say, "What can I do for you?"
That's
Not what
wild.
can I get from you.
And that's how it is. And I've met some great people. I've met some people that's more real and beneficial to my life since I've been in Myrtle Beach the last 8 years than people I have knew my entire life. People ain't never had the question, is you with me or is you not?
Right.
I've never had the question their integrity. I've never had the question like, could I trust them? Like, I've never had the question.
But I'm gonna tell you, one thing that I've also realized is that as I have grown and learned how to be a friend, is when I've gained those friendships too, because it is two ways, right? If I'm always out to be the manipulator, if I'm always out to see what can I get from you, I'm going to get those same kind of returns.
Yes.
You know, I'm a firm believer of what I put out is what I get back.
I want to build. If I want a friend, I got to learn how to be a friend.
That's right.
And that's awesome. So now that you're in recovery, you done been through some things and stayed clean.
Stay clean. I've lost a couple sponsees to overdose. I think that was probably the most traumatic for me, is when you love someone so dearly. The girls that I sponsor, they have become family to me. They're not just someone I walk through the steps with, you know, and then there's many ways for sponsorship. And I'm sorry, this is where you're going to get me. But they become family. And I have a true, deep love, genuine love to see them do better. And there is nothing harder than having to pack up somebody you love's house and take it to their loved ones and attend their funerals and spread their ashes, you know. And so that was pretty rough. I lost my stepdad in recovery. I went through my daughter in the first year of my recovery. Telling me I am the worst mother ever lived, that I ruined her entire life. And I stayed clean through that long enough to be her best friend. You know, and that's the beauty of it, is that for the losses of the sponsees, I have the other sponsees that I have that are thriving today, you know what I'm saying? And they're sharing hope with other women. You know, through the loss of my stepdad, I've gained a better relationship with my mom and my siblings through that loss. With my daughter, by staying clean and staying in recovery long enough for those relationships to be repaired, right? I've gained the trust of my oldest son, Kaya. You know, he walked through hell with me, and he just had his first baby. It was my first grandson. And
congratulations.
Thank you. There is nothing more beautiful. If I had my phone right here, I'd be showing everybody the pictures. Let me show you my grandbaby.
So recovery has given you a brand new life.
It's given me a life beyond my dreams. And that's what it tells us, that it's possible. You know what I'm saying? Like, things that I never thought I could do, I am doing. You know, I remember when I first got out of jail, my sister brought home these pages that she printed off from the internet, right? And she told my mom, it's the way that the different drugs ate your brain and the holes in your brain and the effects that drugs have on you, you know, this is your brain on drugs. And so I showed my mom how bad the effects were. And she said, she'll never be the same. She'll never think right. Remember, you asked me if I graduated. Mm-hmm. I ended up graduating. I ended up going back and getting my GED.
That's awesome.
My sister got to attend my graduation and watch me walk across the valedictorian and give the valedictorian speech.
Wow, that is awesome.
For the girl that was never going to think right again.
That is awesome. Congratulations.
And so it's huge.
And those are things that we never think possible. And then you got someone that hears us when we talk and hear the passion when we talk about things that's new in our things they've been had, but it's new to us as addicts because we're like a GED. Wow, congratulations! Like you graduated and you did all this, but you ain't walked through hell either though. You ain't.
What's that one thing you got that you never, that everybody else that's normal has? It was the greatest thing. Credit score. What?
Yeah.
What?
Like a credit, like credit wasn't even, you couldn't.
Can I get this on the
You
front?
couldn't
That
get
was
drunk.
credit.
Yeah, you couldn't get that's what credit was. Can I get some credit till then? Now you like that is huge for us. Like credit wasn't even like as far as credit scores and all that. Nah, everybody we know took cash and TVs and stuff.
Look, I remember sitting on the couch the first time I checked my credit score. And sitting on the couch and looking at it and crying. I was sitting with my mom and I'm crying. 745. What?
That's good. Yeah.
What?
Man,
For this felon.
So they don't understand that. Yep. That's what we mean when we say stuff. We ain't bragging. We are great. We done lost everything over it. No, we are grateful.
Oh, I can't brag because I didn't do this.
We are grateful.
I didn't do this. Did I put in some footwork? I put in some heavy footwork. Would I have known how to put in the footwork if it weren't for my predecessors? I would not have known how to do it.
Yeah,
so I didn't do this.
We are grateful. We are grateful people.
Yeah.
That's all. We just grateful.
And
we choose to smile a lot and show our teeth and look in your eyes when we talk and all that stuff. So is somebody out there struggling right now with addiction, or someone out there is going to pick up drugs for the first time, or someone out there they're new in recovery? I just need for you to look in that camera right there and give them some hope.
So here's the hope. One is the greatest thing for me was when I found out I didn't have a moral failing. I had the disease of addiction. I truly believe I'm not a messed up person. I do messed up things when I use. What I tell my kids before they ever started using, you never know when that first one could be your last one. And then, I'm sorry, the last little bit of hope that I have, not my last little bit of hope, there's always going to be hope, but I'm going to tell you that any day clean is a successful day. So just know for today, if you stay clean just for this hour, you're a success story. Keep on going.
All right, and my name is Lewis, and
I'm Jenifer.
And thank y'all for tuning in to
Ain't No Days Off.
Ain't No Days Off. Goodbye.